Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating, right? We're talking about linguistic email innovation, and specifically this company called XgenPlus.
Yeah, I'd heard of it. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect when you sent over these articles. Sounds kind of niche, right?
It did at first, I'll admit, but the more I dug in, the more I realized just how impactful this stuff really is.
Well, lay it on me. What's the big deal? What am I missing?
Well, let's start with this. Have you ever stopped to think about how many languages exist just in India?
A lot. I mean, it's a huge, diverse country.
It's mind-blowing, really. It's over 1,600, 1,652 to be exact. Now, imagine trying to navigate the digital world if most of it wasn't in a language you understood.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. I mean, I struggle enough with tech and English sometimes.
Right. And that's a daily reality for millions. It throws up a massive roadblock to digital inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you consider the economic impact. And this is where it gets really interesting. The article highlighted that a huge chunk of India's workforce, almost three-quarters, I think, are in agriculture.
That's right, about 75%.
Right, 75%. So if all this vital information, online training, access to digital marketplaces, all that, if it's locked behind a language barrier,
It limits their potential.
exactly, limits their potential for growth, for progress, everything.
It's true. And I liked how this one article pointed out that it's not even just about individual potential, right? It's about the nation's progress as a whole.
Hmm.
There was this quote from an HP engineer that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. What did they say?
So they were talking about how only a small fraction of Indians, something like 10%, are actually comfortable doing business in English.
Wow, just 10%. I had no idea it was that low.
Right. And because of this, they said that PC use in India has kind of plateaued, hovering around 60 million.
That's a lot of people, but still,
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. And the engineer basically said that growth in the entire sector is completely dependent on solving this very problem.
That's a powerful statement. I mean, it really underscores the urgent need for, well, technology that can bridge this gap.
And that's where XGen Plus comes in. And their origin story is pretty amazing too. Their founder, Dr. Ajay Data, actually has this incredible nickname, the father of internet in Rajasthan.
Wow, okay, the father of internet. Now that's a title.
Right. So back in 1999, he was the first person to bring private internet services to the entire state.
Talk about a visionary. That's incredible. It really is inspiring, isn't it? Seeing someone so dedicated to connecting people. And what he's achieved with XGen Plus is truly groundbreaking. They've tackled this language barrier head on, and their solution is something called email address internationalization.
EAI, right.
Yes.
EAI. I have to admit, when I first saw that, I was a bit lost. But after reading up on it, it's actually pretty incredible.
It really is remarkable. So, in essence, EAI makes it possible to create email addresses in any language. So instead of being limited to just English characters, you could have an address in Hindi, Tamil, or any of the many, many languages spoken across India.
And one of the articles actually gave an example of a Hindi email address, right? It was something like AGA. Yeah.
Precisely. That's a real example of how EAI works. But it's not just about the email addresses themselves. They've also developed something called internationalized domain names, IDNs for short.
Okay, IDNs. So those work in a similar way.
Exactly. They allow website addresses to be in local languages too.
Oh, that's huge.
It really is. Think about it. It's making the web itself more inclusive.
That makes so much sense. It's like opening up these digital spaces to a whole new world of communication and possibilities. And I was blown away to learn that their data mail app already supports 19 languages.
19. It's a real testament to their commitment to linguistic diversity. But I'm curious, from your reading, did anything strike you about the practical side of things? Like, how easy is it to actually use this technology?
That was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah.
When I first heard about EAI, I have to say it sounded incredibly complex, like something you'd need a computer science degree to even understand, let alone use.
I can see why you'd think that. But honestly, they've done a great job of making it user-friendly. They offer two main deployment options, hosted and client-side.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the difference?
Sure. So hosted is pretty straightforward. It's essentially like any other email service you're used to where all your data is stored on the provider servers. This works well for organizations that don't have their own IT infrastructure or who prefer a simpler, more hands-off approach.
Got it. So client side would be for those who preferred to manage things internally.
Exactly. With the client-side option, organizations can install XGen Plus's software directly onto their own existing systems.
And is that more expensive?
You know what? It might even be a selling point, actually, particularly for larger organizations. The client-side licensing is surprisingly affordable. It works out to less than $7 per user annually.
Wow. That's incredibly cost effective. But what about the features themselves? I mean, does using EAI limit what you can do with email at all? Can it still do all the things that a standard email service can?
Absolutely. All the basics are covered. POP, IMAI, webmail, calendar integration, you name it.
So it's not about reinventing the wheel at all. It's about making that wheel accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
But what really piqued my curiosity were some of the more unique features developed by XgenPlus. Did you find any of those particularly interesting?
Several, actually. There's several that really stood out to me. First, there's their robust link validation feature. Given how prevalent phishing scams have become these days, I think this is a real game changer for online security, especially for users who might be new to navigating the digital world.
Oh, absolutely. It seems like every other day I'm dodging those suspicious emails, right? Trying to trick me into clicking on something. Right. How does link validation work exactly?
Well, it's actually quite clever. So with XgenPlus, whenever you click a link in an email, their system automatically cross-references it against a whole host of security standards, essentially to verify its legitimacy.
Uh-huh.
And if it raises any red flags at all, you get a clear warning, which prevents you from accidentally, stumbling into a phishing trap.
That's incredibly useful. It's like having a built-in security guard for your inbox. What else caught your eye?
Well, considering your earlier point about email overload,
Oh, tell me about it.
you'll appreciate this one. It's called the snooze feature.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten an email that you just, you don't have the time or the energy to deal with right that second?
All the time. My inbox is basically a digital procrastination station.
Right. Well, with snooze, you can actually make that email disappear temporarily and schedule it to reappear at a more convenient time. It's like hitting the snooze button on a pesky alarm clock.
But for your email.
Yeah.
Okay, that is genius. Seriously, features like this make such a difference in managing, like, the daily deluge of digital communication.
Exactly. And it highlights how XgenPlus really goes beyond just the basics. They're really considering the practical needs of their users.
Yeah.
Another great example of this is their virtual storage feature.
Okay.
This is incredibly useful for businesses or anyone who frequently sends large files.
Yeah.
So instead of clogging up everyone's inboxes with these hefty attachments, you can upload the file to your secure virtual storage and just share a simple link.
It's like having a built-in file sharing platform, right?
Yeah.
Within your email system. That's brilliant.
Exactly. And this is all in addition to another key feature, their XGen IM.
Okay.
This provides secure internal communication for organizations, ensuring that sensitive information stays protected.
Wow. They really have thought of everything, haven't they?
Yeah.
But I think what strikes me most about XgenPlus is that this technology isn't just sitting in a lab somewhere. It's actually having a real-world impact.
It is. And I think that's the most exciting part, right?
Yeah.
Remember that quote from Dr. Data, the one about demolishing the dominance of English in terms of access and content?
Oh, yeah.
I think that really captures the heart of it.
Absolutely. For so long, the internet has felt like this exclusive club, with English as the only spoken language.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't fluent, you were essentially left out of the conversation.
Exactly. But XgenPlus is helping to dismantle that barrier, and they're at the forefront of this larger movement towards linguistic diversity online, where local language content is becoming increasingly more common. This opens up a world of possibilities.
It's about so much more than just email. It's about access to information, education, economic opportunities,
Yeah.
all those things that so many of us take for granted.
Precisely. And when people can access the internet in their native language, their likelihood of actually using it skyrockets. They're more likely to engage, to participate in online communities, to start businesses, to contribute to the global economy. It's a huge step towards bridging the digital divide.
And I find it incredibly inspiring that XgenPlus is achieving all of this with their Made in India vision. They're not some faceless tech giant. They're a homegrown company, intimately familiar with the unique challenges and opportunities within India.
And their client base really speaks volumes about that. They're working with government agencies, banks, businesses of all sizes. It's a clear sign that they are meeting a genuine need.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you want to connect with the widest possible audience in India, you need to speak their language. XgenPlus makes that possible. And remember what we discussed at the beginning of our dive, those 1,652 languages spoken across the country. That represents 1,652 potential markets for businesses, 1,652 communities waiting to be reached, 1,652 voices ready to be heard.
It's a powerful reminder of technology's potential to foster inclusion, to empower individuals, and to build connections across linguistic lines. Witnessing this kind of innovation is truly remarkable.
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into XgenPlus, I'm left with this thought-provoking question. If linguistic email can have this kind of impact in India, what about the rest of the world? What other language barriers could we break down with similar innovation? It's something worth pondering, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a question with far-reaching implications.
It certainly is. And for our listeners who are as captivated by Dr. Data and XgenPlus's journey as we are, we encourage you to delve deeper and learn more. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. But keep those minds curious, and we'll catch you next time.